The Artist Way, Week 2. When I shared my Week 1 with the internet, so many of you said you've also started The Artist Way over and over and over again. I found a community of hopeful quitters, almost finishers, dropout artists, but also a community of people who are willing to give it another go. I started last week feeling pretty chill until I realized I would be digging through my entire childhood for toxic thoughts I didn't even know were running my life. I'm going into this week confident, but I'm sure I'll be leaving it aware of some things. This week is all about recovering a sense of identity. Okay, so it's week 2. I read chapter 2 at the end of last week. I have a few thoughts. One of the first things it talks about is basically other people's influence on your life. I'm sure it'll talk about that a bunch of times in the book, but this week in particular, it was about people who are poisonous to you and your creativity, and crazy makers who are also poisonous to you and your creativity. Basically, whoever needs to go needs to go. According to this particular chapter, those two groups of people are basically people that kind of prohibit you from reaching your goals. So for example, you have friends that know that you need to stay in Saturday night to study, and they will do everything in their power to convince you to not study and hang out with them instead because they want to hang out with you. A little selfish, could be fun, but you shouldn't be doing it. And they shouldn't be doing it because they know your goals, right? That's a distraction in a person. The other category would be crazy makers, who are people who just love drama. When things are going good, they gotta ruin it. They have to. They are typically selfish in a way that, like, they might not hold up their end of the deal, and they might change every plan, and they might, completely disrupt whatever you have going on, but they still have an expectation for how things work out for them. This is embarrassing to say, but we're documenting the journey, so I'm going to tell you anyway. When I read that, of course, I could bring up some crazy makers in my life, but I could also acknowledge that I, at times, could be a crazy maker, and the book doesn't even establish what do you do when it's you. Obviously, the answer is to stop doing that. But you know what I'm saying. As upsetting as that is to realize about myself, I can be like that sometimes in certain situations. Not permanently, not all the time. But I can get a little trapped into self, especially in particular moments of my life and when I'm going through certain things or whatever. And so I can acknowledge that that is something that I had to face this week and will continue to address. But I thought that was interesting that it just automatically assumed that it wasn't me. I definitely didn't expect to get dragged like that. It also talked about skepticism, which I think is just so innate. All of us do that. We always question things, but that also needs to go because you must have an open mind. Obviously, if the mind is open, there's more room to think different things. Like, I got that part. Lastly, it talked about attention, the things that we pay attention to in our lives or choose to pay attention to, which is very important because it is a choice. One of the things I confronted in reading this and in reflecting is that I choose to pay attention to negativity very, very often, which paralyzes me all the time. And not even in just being creative, but just like existing. If something less than great is happening, or if I'm receiving negative attention or any negative energy, I will pay so much close attention to it that it'll just completely consume me and shut down the entire rest of everything I got going on. If I had plans that day, if I was gonna make a video, if I was gonna do anything, it'll shut it all down. And so that one was a big thing for me, and that is something for me, definitely for me to address through this process. That's something that I obviously was already aware of and already dealing with and knew that it had to change, but here we are. All that said, I am now ready to do a couple of the tasks I was meant to do this week. There are 10 total. A few of them are really short. So I think a couple of them I'm going to do. There's one that says list 20 things you enjoy doing. That's easy. I like doing a lot of things. And then putting a date next to them to see when the last time you did those things were. And then that becomes a resource for artist dates, which is cool. And then from that list, you're gonna write down 2 favorite things of the list that you have avoided, and they could be goals for this week. I was gonna do this earlier this week to give myself more time, but hectic work week. It's the weekend now, so I had time, so I'm gonna do those 2 things this weekend. The other thing I'm going to do right now, there's one that says 10 tiny changes, where you list 10 changes that you like to make for yourself, from the significant to the small or vice versa. So it could be anything from getting new sheets so you have another set to getting rid of a friend. That is intense. Wow. And the very next task under that is to select one small item and to make that a goal for this week. So I think those are 2 very or they're technically 4 tasks, but light things that I can do for today in preparation for this weekend. As of right now, I think I've only done my morning pages once or twice, so I already know that this week was not it for those. They're really hard. I tell you that right now. I'm struggling with those. Checking in from the car, let's talk about these morning pages. So this week already, in week 2, was a flop. And at first, I was kind of beating myself up about it being a flop. Good morning. It is, I think, 7 on the dot. I woke up at 6:30 this morning. Somehow, I got into my morning pages and realized that I didn't do it yesterday. I don't know how I missed that, but I do also know that Sunday night I did not go to sleep. So maybe my body just didn't register the fact that, hey, it's Monday morning. Hey, it's morning time. And then just now I was only able to do half of it, or less than half, probably 30% of it. Yeah, I only did 1 page because I do have to make it to the gym by 8 this morning. Don't want to be late, so I am going to pause here and pick this back up this afternoon and finish the rest of the other 2 pages. I know not the way that it said it's supposed to be done, but again, we're striving to complete the program, not complete the program perfectly. So yeah, I'm gonna bring both my journal and the actual book out with me today. I plan to go straight to my co-working space after the gym. I'm gonna review what this upcoming week should look like for me, just to make sure I'm being mindful of it throughout the week. It is Tuesday, still kind of the top of the week. I have a very, very, very busy schedule this week. Should be fun. But once I got over it, I was over it. I acknowledged that every week's not going to be perfect, and I'm not going to redo the week because I didn't do all the morning pages. But I do want to talk about some of the things that I noticed when I do complete the morning pages, and then some things that I think will help me moving forward. No promises, but they might help me. So I can definitely acknowledge, and I might have acknowledged this in week 1, but when I wake up first thing in the morning and just clear my brain of everything, it's great. I touched on this a lot in my morning routine video, but before I was doing morning pages, and then in the midst of that I started introducing the morning pages because I started this process. It just feels really good to be able to clear my head for the day. The morning pages don't always make sense. It's just like stream of consciousness, whatever is on my brain, get it out on paper, and I do enjoy that. What prevents me from getting them done is when I wake up and I have things to do at the top of my head. I'm more concerned with getting those things done than I am with sitting down and writing in this journal. So for example, if I did not shut down my kitchen the night before, which I typically don't, if I didn't go to bed with my apartment clean enough for me to want to work or do anything productive the next day, my priority, tunnel vision, is to get things clean. Let me go clean the dishes, let me go do whatever. And then that kind of like, that's not the point. The morning page is supposed to be first thing in the morning. So I did actually set up an automation. If you don't use automations, you should get into it. But I set up an automation in the morning. But this is what my automation typically looks like. I have a specific alarm that goes off at 5:05 every morning. That's when I would like to wake up. I do hit snooze still sometimes, but for the most part, I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. When that alarm goes off, it is set to do all of these things. So it puts do not disturb on my phone until 8 a.m. That way, just like the morning pages suggest, or just like my morning routine suggests, or just like whatever, I'm not scrolling or checking my notifications or anything like that until 8 o'clock. If anyone contacts me during that time, this is my morning time. So, you know, I'm unavailable, D&D. The lights in my living room. So I typically get up and make a beverage every morning, and that will be in my kitchen, which is next to my living room. And so my living room lighting changes to a certain setting every morning. This is the morning setting. Is not too bright. It's just like a nice little mood setting for me to like want to do the thing. Like feels calming, whatever. But all that's happening while I'm still in the bed stretching my toes and whatnot. I do get the forecast for that day, so I'm like thinking about what I have to wear or do if I am leaving out for the day. And then Calm opens up and it starts a 10-minute meditation. Again, I'm still in the bed, so from the moment my alarm goes off through the end of this meditation, a meditation happens, the lighting changes in my room, I get the forecast. After the meditation, a specific album starts playing on my Apple Music. This one is Caught Up in This Illusion. That album is Juicy J's jazz album. If you don't know, get into it. Currently, that is what I like to listen to in the morning while I'm writing. So as soon as that music starts playing, I am cued to then get up and go write. I've tried it for a couple days. It's been working, so I have been able to do my morning pages a few times this week, just not nearly like it wasn't the 7 days. Another thing is that there have been times where I've gotten up and went to write, but I haven't been filling the 3 pages. I'm not penalizing myself for that either. It is what it is. But I do feel accomplished when I get all 3 pages done. It also kind of seems so easy to fill 3 pages that when I don't fill the 3 pages, I know that there's something that either I'm not being intentional enough or I'm just like trying to rush through just doing the morning pages for the sake of doing them. This is not something that I want to feel like. It does feel like schoolwork, but I don't want it to feel like a hassle to get done. It should start to feel like a routine. So even when I don't complete the 3 pages, I'm not forcing it, because at the end of the day, I still journal and got something out of my head that day. For the sake of this, I will acknowledge when I did the 3 pages of morning pages. That's what I will consider, and I will probably like note if I say I completed all 7 days, but only 5 of them were the complete morning pages. I might indicate that, but I don't know if all that is that important to me. Like I said, I'm going to go through this process in a way that works best for me, or as it seems to be working out at this time. I anticipate by week 5 or 6 things are different, but right now, again, 0 to 100 has never been my style. So yeah, the morning pages, we're working on those. As for my artist dates, there are no shortage of those. I am having the time of my life going and doing things and activities and stuff by myself that I don't even have to think about like, oh, what's my artist date this week? So even as I'm like talking to you about it, I don't know which thing I would pick as my artist date. I have like, which one was it? I don't know. I did something nearly every day. I have recently and going into this week completed a video where I forced myself to hang out with people that I don't know. It was really me forcing myself to like network, but in me doing that, I was going and doing a lot of activities by myself. I've already shared that, I believe, by now, so that would be up here if you haven't seen it. But what I have not shared, which I am identifying as my artist date for this week because it was so enjoyable, was me updating my journal ecosystem. I've been on Journal Talk and Stationery Talk and whatever else for a long time. I've always had a ecosystem of shorts, but it was in a million books. I shared a TikTok about it a long time ago. I have endless journals and I don't need another one. But now I'm organized and I got them together. I completely shrunk down everything into well, not just this, I still have others, but anyway, we got this going on. This is now my prized possession. It's my favorite thing ever. The artist date I had with this was essentially going through all the journals that I use, figuring out what was most important that I wanted to keep all together, assembling this, and then decorating some of the books. So here's like my media journal that I have in here. I went to town with the stickers. This one is a running to-do list, so basically like endless things that I want to do that have no particular due date. The list never ends, just keeps going pages and pages and pages down, so that when I have time to get something done, I'll look on here and say, oh yeah, I did want to do this, and you know. And then I also started a fresh sketchbook in here. I thought just because I was going through this process, I wanted to have a new sketchbook in case I felt so inspired to do something in it, and I did. I actually broke out my box of art supplies and I started drawing random things with oil pastels. This is like, everybody draws these at least once, but we have an avocado in here, just random. Obviously I was hungry. This one's horrible, but it's in here. But I'm like excited to see myself fill pages in the sketchbook for no reason other than to want to create something. Because before, my sketchbook, if you look at my old one, it's mostly work, logo design, layouts, floor plans, things like that. Anything that I had to do or had to sketch out for a job was in my sketchbook. I didn't have anything leisurely or just because in there. So I don't know, I'm glad to have unlocked that recently. And then the last notebook in here is my commonplace. Look at this picture of me and Mozzie, how cute. But I basically just have a bunch of notes in here. Anything, like I do a lot of Skillshare classes and things like that, so notes that I have from there. If I hear quotes that I like, I have a word of the day subscription in my email inbox, so any of those words that I want to remember and write down the definitions of, stuff like that. I don't know if I mentioned this media notebook is for like anything that I read or watch that I want to have commentary on. That's in here. I have another tiny notebook. It's basically a burn book for internet commentary. So instead of me going back and forth with people on the internet, I put it in that notebook, because how I look going back and forth with you. Sometimes I still might have to, but. And then this one here is my lists notebook. Any list I got. I love making lists. I don't know if y'all know that. My favorite list in here right now is probably my wish list, which is a running list of things that I want to buy, but writing it in here stops me from spending the money until I feel like I deserve buying, like I'm ready to buy something, you know? But yeah, I love this. I love using it. And the process of putting together was low-key therapeutic, and it resulted in something that I'll be able to use forever until it's full, and then I refill it with different notebooks. But that was my artist date for this week. This was the one thing that I sat down and dedicated alone time to, amongst the plenty of other things that I got into this week, but this is the one. So right now I'm actually about to go inside and review the assignments that I did this week and kind of do my check-ins, so I'll come back to y'all then. Okay, so the check-ins every week are basically about the same. Did you do your morning pages? How many times? And did you do your artist week? And any issues? Did you have any issues? I feel like I've covered that already. Confirmed we did log 3 days of morning pages. I'd say that was pretty successful for the week I was having. I am pulling out my iPad because I would like to look at one of the tasks for the week. I'll go through a couple of them actually. So on the list of things that I enjoy, I put down going to art museums, trying new restaurants, going to the movies, love that, browsing the bookstore, making fancier than necessary dinners, scrapbooking, picnics, making jewelry. I just paused at making jewelry because that's something that I have not done in so long, but I used to like doing that a lot. Clothes shopping, who doesn't love that? I'm just a girl. Riding a bike, walking trails, designing posters, illustrating on Procreate, coloring, playing cozy games, writing short stories, taking photos, learning small new creative skills like a makeup look or something like that, something that I can follow with someone else and then learn it for myself. That's like, I don't know, it's a top tier hobby. If you don't do it, try it. Doing my nails and going to live entertainment. So I wrote down for my week 2 goals to visit a museum and then stop by Michael's or something like that, some craft store for scrapbooking supplies. I did not do either of those 2 things, but I guess I swapped them out throughout the week, and I ended up going to the movies alone. I've actually been doing that a lot lately. It's fun. You don't got to worry about anybody else, and you get a good movie in. I love it. And I guess I kind of did do the second one. I did grab some scrapbooking supplies. I originally did it so that I could put my journals together. I didn't vlog this, but I ended up going to various different stores and places and grabbing like all those stickers and all those things that I had in order to do that. And in turn, I also have been, outside of morning pages, I have been creative journaling, basically doing something more than the stream of consciousness or listing out what happened to me that day or whatever type of journaling I was doing, I was also doing some kind of creative activity or sketching or collaging or whatever, scrapbooking in my journal. So those were the two things I did instead. I didn't consciously swap those out, but I did it anyway, as complete. And then I also shared my 10 tiny changes, which were I'd like to refresh my bedding with new sheets and pillows. I had bought new sheets. I was so excited to get my clean body into these fresh, new, clean sheets when I bought them over a month ago. Still hadn't done it. So I put that as the first thing on my 10 tiny changes. I like to create a monthly budget. I know I'm an adult with no monthly budget. I used to do it heavily. I stopped. I want to get back into that. I like to reorganize my cabinets. I like to plan and book a trip. I'd like to declutter my closet. I like to get my hair done. We see I ain't do that yet. I'd like to put my routines in my calendar. I think that's something that will help me a lot. If I'm notified or constantly seeing the things that are in my routine, it will help me like do them. I'd like to have, I'm gonna keep that one to myself. I'd like to finish a book series. I start series all the time and never complete them. I might get to the second book and then I've had enough. I've seen all I needed to see. And I'd like to deep clean my couch or pay someone to do it. I've paid someone before. I just don't like people in my house. So I always get into a space where I'm like, oh, I'll just do it myself. And then I don't do it when it could have been done if I just let someone in here to do it. Anyway, I had to pick one thing out of here to make my week 2 goal, and that I obviously chose to put the bedding on the bed. And I did that and I've been sleeping great. That one tiny accomplishment, it kind of sparked something in me. But overall, this week wasn't as bad. I did a lot of reflecting on the crazy maker stuff and the things that I put my attention to. I wrote a lot about that on that first day that I did morning pages, especially the things that I give my attention to. So that is something that I know will be on my mind for who knows how long. It'll be there though. So I'm thinking that would be my question to you all. What are some things that you give your attention to that you either think are like super beneficial to you and your creativity or your productivity or whatever, or things that you give your attention to that you feel like maybe you should ease up and put your attention elsewhere? And it doesn't have to be super negative. It could be something that you give your attention to that isn't benefiting you at this time, and maybe it'd be worth giving attention to later, because I had some things like that came up as well. But mine is definitely giving my attention to like things going wrong or like negative things in my life, because it is taking up too much of my time. I'm losing days on end. Now I can't afford to lose days. But yeah, that was it for week 2. Let's see what week 3 is. Recovering a sense of power. It says this week may find you dealing with unaccustomed bursts of energy and sharp peaks of anger, joy, and grief. Sounds fun. I will see y'all next week. Bye.